Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss various manifestations of Stevens-Johnson syndrome and their management from an ophthalmologist's perspective.
Dr. Hema Joshi works as a consultant ophthalmologist in cataract and cornea services at H.V. Desai Eye Hospital, Pune. She has completed her fellowship in cornea and ocular surface from H.V. Desai Eye Hospital and an observership from Moorfields Eye Hospital, London.
So Stevens-Johnson syndrome, toxic epidermal necrosis, is a rare acute blistering disease that affects the skin and at least two mucous membranes and predisposes the patient to various life-threatening diseases like sepsis, acute respiratory illness, and multi-organ failure. For the last 40 years, Stevens-Johnson syndrome and toxic epidermal necrolysis was considered as a part of erythema multiforme spectrum. An international case control study termed Severe Cutaneous Adverse Drug Reactions Study reported that erythema multiforme is different from Stevens-Johnson syndrome and toxic epidermal necrolysis, and SJS and TEN are severity variants of a single entity, in which if the skin involvement is less than 10%, it is termed as SJS. If it is more than 30%, it is termed as TEN. And if it is between 10 to 30% of the body surface area, it is termed as SJS-TN overlap. It is a rare disease with an incidence of 1 to 2 cases per million per year for SJS and 0.4 to 1.2 cases per million per year for TN, with women twice more commonly affected than men. It has a strong association with several drugs such as sulfonamides, which is the most common etiology in India, allopurinol, anticonvulsants such as carbamazepine, phenytoin, lamotrigine, barbiturates, and some NSAIDs. And it has a weak association with infections such as Mycoplasma pneumoniae, group A beta hemolytic streptococci, cytomegalovirus, herpes simplex virus, and HIV. Pathogenesis of SJS-TN is not yet fully understood, but various studies report that it has genetic as well as immunological basis. Some studies report that specific alleles at HLA-A and B loci increases the risk of drug-induced SJS-TN, with HLA-B12, DQB1-0601 in white population and HLA-A0206 in Asian populations. There is an association reported between disordered immune response and SJS with a role of secretory granulescence that act as key molecule during keratocyte death, with mechanism involving cytotoxic T cells and natural killer cells. Several single nucleotide polymorphisms, that is SNPs analysis, have shown it to be associated with apoptosis, specifically in toll-like receptor 3 genes. Human ocular surface epithelial cells expresses toll-like receptor 3 gene and induces pro-inflammatory cytokines, which are responsible for keratocyte and epidermal cell death. Very little information exists regarding natural history of the ocular disease in Stevens-Johnson syndrome. While a subset of patients have mild ocular involvement, others have severe complications. The complications have different etiologies and may coexist or occur sequentially. Natural history involves acute phase, which lasts up to 2 weeks, subacute phase, which follows the acute phase, and a chronic phase, which is also called as phase of sequelae. Coming to the acute phase, it has a prodrome of several days. Patient complains of fever, malaise, sore throat, headache, cough, followed by an ill-defined erythematous rash, which occurs on face, neck, and upper trunk, which then blisters and sloughs off in sheets. Patient is extremely anxious and in severe pain. Other organs like liver, kidneys, and bone marrow may also be involved. During this acute phase, patient is at risk of severely, potentially fatal complications like dehydration, sepsis, pneumonia, acute respiratory distress syndrome, gastrointestinal perforation, shock, multiple organ failure, including kidney failure. Mortality rate for SJS can be as high as up to 10%, and for TN, it is up to 34%. Acute SJS-TN is an emergency. The first step in the management is early diagnosis and discontinuation of the offending agent and all other non-essential drugs. Wound care is paramount and should be done in burn unit if possible. Pain management, fluid, electrolyte, and nutrition management is again very important. Immunoglobulins, immunomodulators, and systemic steroids are also indicated. Use of immunosuppressive therapy is still not clear. Several studies report that use of systemic steroids can lead to increased susceptibility to infection as well as to increased mortality. But some studies also report that early pulse therapy with IV methylprednisolone, if started within 4 days of onset of SJS, can prevent ocular complications. Similarly, studies with intravenous immunoglobulins have conflicting reports. More than 50% of patients experience ocular complications during the acute phase. Symptoms include ocular irritation, dryness, grittiness, redness, and pain, and signs such as hyperemia, meibomitis, hemorrhagic crusting of lid margins, pseudomembrane formation, corneal and conjunctival epithelial defects, and symblepharon formation. During the examination in this phase, whole ocular surface should be stained with fluorescein stain, and lid eversion is also mandatory. The first figure shows hyperemia, and the second figure shows hemorrhagic crusting of the lid margins. Management depends on severity of ocular signs. Disease is considered mild if there is conjunctival hyperemia, but fluorescein stain is negative. In mild disease, prophylactic tear film management with preservative-free tear substitutes, topical antibiotics, and topical steroids with cyclosporin are needed. Close monitoring should be done. Reassessment is mandatory every 24 hours. The disease is considered as moderate if there is less than 1 centimeter area of conjunctival staining with minimal lid margin staining and no corneal epithelial staining. Treatment is same as mild, and again, close monitoring is necessary. Severe disease is considered when there is more than 1 centimeter area of conjunctival staining, more than 1/3 of lid margin staining, and any corneal epithelial defect. Treatment should be urgently administered in such cases. A large diameter bandage contact lens, Procera, AM-Certer, and AMG to lid margins and ocular surfaces needed. Procera or AM-Certer can be used if patient cannot be moved to ophthalmic OT, but even in such cases, AMG needs to be done for lid margins and fornices. If doing the procedure at bedside, fibrin glue can be used instead of sutures for lid margin AMG. If multiple areas of severe involvement of conjunctiva, lid margin, and cornea are present, it is considered as extremely severe disease. And in this case, sutured AMG to entire ocular surface with lid margins is mandatory. AMG might need to be repeated after 1 week. Cryopreserved amniotic membrane is the only one recommended for use, as fresh amniotic membrane carries risk of various infections transmission. Surgical technique of AMG, removal of inflammatory debris and completely covering the entire ocular surface from upper lid to lower lid is mandatory before surgery. Fornices should be formed with double-arm fornix forming suture to reduce the chance of symblephra formation and fornicial foreshortening. Fibrin glue as well as sutures should be used to adhere the AMG to the ocular surface. Procera is made up of polycarbonate rings which clips amniotic membrane in between, and the polycarbonate rings in turn act as symblepharon ring. A similar indigenous device called as Oro AM-Certer is still under testing phase. When the acute phase is over and systemic disease is in remission, patient complains of progressively worsening red eye. This is the acute phase of Stevens-Johnson syndrome and presents with foreign body sensation, progressive redness, dryness, inability to open eyes, photophobia, and diminution of vision, with signs including ectropion, trichiasis and dystichiasis, symblepharon formation, recurrent or persistent epithelial defects, severe dry eye, and keratinization of the posterior lid margin. The first figure shows ectropion, second figure shows trichiasis and dystichiasis, and the third figure shows keratinization of the posterior lid margin. The persistent inflammation and ulceration of ocular surface with cicatricial complications of lid causes chronic sequelae, which occurs in up to 35% of SJS-TEN patients. Inflammation targets the meibomian glands, causing their atrophy, and contracture of conjunctiva leads to ectropion and trichiasis. Inflammation also causes lacrimation gland function loss with severe dry eye, persistent epithelial defect, and repeated microtrauma by keratinized lid margins, which leads to corneal damage. Destruction of limbal stem cells along with compromised ocular surface and severe dry eye leads to end-stage disease, which is characterized by keratinized ocular surface and eventually corneal blindness. To standardize the objective evaluation and management of chronic stage of disease, Sotozono considered 13 components of 3 categories of ocular complications, each component to be graded from 0 to 3 depending on severity. Corneal components considered were loss of palisades of Vogt, epithelial defect, conjunctivalization, neovascularization, opacification, keratinization, and severity of superficial punctate keratopathy. Conjunctival appearance was considered for hyperemia, and lid variables considered were symblepharon, trichiasis, mucocutaneous junction involvement, meibomian gland involvement, and punctal involvement. The figure shows no conjunctivalization in the first image, which is considered as grade 0. Less than 1/4 of the corneal surface involvement, which is considered as grade 1, from 1/4 to half, which is considered as grade 2, and more than half of the corneal surface, which is considered as grade 3. Neovascularization is considered as grade 1 when it just crosses the limbus, grade 2 when it reaches the pupillary margin, and grade 3 when it reaches the central cornea. Opacification is considered as grade 1 when there is partial obscuration of iris details, grade 2 when only pupillary margin can be made out, and grade 3 when there is total obscuration of iris and pupil details. Keratinization is considered as grade 1 when it reaches up to 1/4 of the cornea, grade 2 when it is more 1/4 to half, and grade 3 when it is more than half. Symblepharon are considered as grade 1 when they are within the conjunctiva itself, grade 2 when they reaches half of the cornea, and grade 3 when they cover more than half of the cornea. This figure shows grading scores of mucocutaneous junction involvement. Grade 0 is when there is perfectly regular mucocutaneous junction. Grade 1 when there is mild irregularity. Grade 2 when there is moderate irregularity. And grade 3 when there is severe irregularity of mucocutaneous junction. Management in chronic phase depends on a large scale on degree of dryness of ocular surface. Irrespective of severity, all SJS-TN patient require long-term, almost lifelong tear substitutes, cyclosporin for a long time, and pulses of anti-inflammatory like steroids depending on the inflammation. Almost 90% of the patients have chronic meibomitis. It is essential to remove keratin from lid margin at periodic intervals. If the ocular surface is moist and puncta are patent, permanent punctal plugs are useful in such cases. If the central cornea is clear and fornices are well formed without severe symblephra, scleral contact lenses like PROS can be beneficial. Scleral contact lenses rests on the sclera and provide a space between the front surface of the cornea and back surface of the lens, which is filled with fluid and which ensures adequate oxygen supply. It also prevents the microtrauma which is caused by the keratinized lid margins. It also reduces photophobia, and they also improve vision by covering the irregular astigmatism. Disadvantages are they are expensive and require comparatively normal ocular surface without severe symblephra. They range in diameter from 12.5 to 15 mm when they are called as semiscleral lenses, 15 to 18 when they are called as miniscleral lenses, and 18 to 25 when they are called as large scleral lenses. These can be used with combination of topical steroids, tear substitutes, cyclosporin, punctal occlusion, amniotic membrane grafting, and tarsorrhaphy. Fitting of the scleral contact lens is almost an art form. Scleral contact lenses should be large enough to cover exposed surface. There should be no central touch or application bubbles. Clearance, which is the area between the back surface of lens and front surface of cornea, should be adequate. There should be no episcleral vessel blanching and excessive edge lift. For severely dry surface, salivary gland transplantation can be done. Minor salivary gland transplant is preferred over parotid or mandibular glands transplant. Minor glands are present in labial, buccal, and palatal mucosa. Nowadays, this procedure is often combined with mucous membrane grafting. Mucous membrane grafting is definitive treatment for lid margin keratinization, and it forms a part of ocular surface reconstruction. The strip of keratinized conjunctiva is excised along with tarsal conjunctiva. Care should be taken not to damage the lid muscles which are underneath the tarsal conjunctiva. Area of the defect is measured. For oral mucous membrane harvesting, povidone iodine in soaked gauze piece is placed on buccal or labial mucosa. Most of the times labial mucosa is preferred, but if we need to take a large graft or if we are planning to do a bilateral procedure, buccal mucosal graft can be preferred. Graft should be oversized by 20%. It should be taken from area between vermilion border and frenulum. Bare area on the labial mucosa can be covered with AMG. It causes faster healing of the mucosa. A good graft should be thin and without submucosal fat or buttonholes. The graft is attached in place with fibrin glue as well as 80 microsutures. Patients with relatively wet surfaces are candidates for limbal stem cell transplant and cultivated oral mucosal epithelial transplant. These procedures work well if preoperative Schirmer's value is more than 10%. If the preoperative Schirmer's value is less than 5%, these procedures are not recommended as they carry high chances of failure. Coming to the limbal stem cell transplant, both conventional as well as cultivated limbal stem cells can be transplanted. Total 360-degree peritomy is done and the conjunctiva is recessed all around. Donor limbal graft is cut into small pieces and placed superiorly and inferiorly. They are fixed with fibrin glue and AMG is placed all over the ocular surface. Keratolimbal allograft is done in a similar manner with donor crescents of corneolimbal tissue placed superiorly and inferiorly at the limbus and sutured. Main drawback of keratolimbal allograft is lack of complete epithelialization of corneal surface. So this procedure is used only when other options are not feasible. In COMET, that is cultivated oral mucosal epithelial transplant, a 6 mm diameter piece is taken from the oral mucosa. It is cut into several small pieces and cultivated on murine 3T3 cells, which are fibroblasts, as feeder layer and serum and amniotic membrane as carrier layer for 10 to 14 days. During surgery, 360-degree of peritomy is done. A fibrotic tissue is excised. Subconjunctival spaces are washed with 0.04% mitomycin C for 3 to 4 minutes. A 19 mm piece of cultivated oral mucosal epithelial sheet is transplanted onto the corneal surface and fixed in place with fibrin glue and 10-0 nylon sutures. Bandage contact lens is inserted to protect the transplanted sheet. These procedures are mainly for ocular surface reconstruction. For visual rehabilitation in these cases, penetrating keratoplasty is not preferred at all, as there is high chance of rejection and failure due to dry and keratinized ocular surface. For visual rehabilitation, keratoprosthesis are the procedure of choice. It is a replacement of damaged and opaque cornea with an artificial implant. The keratoprosthesis can be divided according to whether they are integrated or not. So there can be biocompatible, in which the flange or the skirt is made up of PMMA or an inert material, like in Boston keratoprosthesis 1 and 2. They can be considered as biointegrated when a skirt of Dacron mesh or hydrogel, Dacron mesh like in Pintucci keratoprosthesis and hydrogel like in Alpha-Corp keratoprosthesis, through which the tissue grows, fibros, and fixes the keratoprosthesis in place. It can be biological when they are made up of tooth, bone, or cartilage, or even nail, like in onychokeratoprosthesis. The central cylinder in all these cases are made up of PMMA, and the supporting cover tissue adds to the capro complex. In type 1, it is bandage contact lens. In type 2, it is skin, and in osteoodontokeratoprosthesis and Pintucci, it is the mucous membrane. These covers prevent carrier graft desiccation. They can also be divided according to design. Collar stud device like in Boston keratoprosthesis. They can be intracorneal like in Alpha-Corp. They can be epicorneal like in Pintucci and osteoodontokeratoprosthesis. For Stevens-Johnson syndrome end-stage disease, type 1 keratoprostheses have a very guarded prognosis and they are not preferred in most cases. Nowadays, the modified osteoodontokeratoprostheses, which were started by Strampelli and modified by Falcinelli, are preferred. If the patient is not eligible for this procedure, type 2 keratoprostheses such as Boston, Kipro type 2 and LVP keratoprostheses can be done. Modified osteoodontokeratoprosthesis is a 3-stage procedure and is performed as per Rome-Vienna protocol. Stage 1A, iris, lens, and anterior vitreous are removed. If corneal thinning is noted, tectonic keratoplasty is done. After the 1 month of stage 1A, stage 1B and C are done together. A maxillary canine is harvested and fashioned into osteoodontoalveolar lamina. An optical cylinder is fixed through it. This assembly is placed in the contralateral cheek subcutaneous pouch for development of fibrovascular covering for 2 to 3 months. In the same sitting, buccal mucosa is harvested and fixed to the ocular surface and to the 4 recti muscles. Stage 2 is performed after 3 months. The lamina is removed. Central cornea is refined after reflecting the mucous membrane graft, and optical cylinder and lamina is placed. Oral mucosa is draped over it with a central opening for cylinder to protrude. This is the algorithm of management in subacute and corneal phase and chronic phase. If the fornix are deep and central cornea is clear, then scleral contact lenses can be prescribed. If fornices are not deep or if the central cornea is not clear, along with bilateral total limbal stem cell deficiency and lid margin keratinization, lid margin mucous membrane grafting is done. If there is relatively wet ocular surface, cultivated oral mucosal epithelial transplantation is preferred, and keratoprosthesis is done. And if the surface is bone dry, osteoodontokeratoprosthesis is the procedure of choice. For the management of end-stage disease, bilateral dermatized surface is there. So in such cases, osteoodontokeratoprostheses are the preferred choice. If in some cases it is not possible, then Boston keratoprosthesis type 2 and LVP keratoprosthesis can be done. Differential diagnosis includes erythema multiforme, cicatricial pemphigoid, paraneoplastic pemphigus, burns, graft versus host disease, staphylococcal scalded skin syndrome, generalized bullous fixed drug eruption, epidermolysis bullosa acquisita, infectious conjunctivitis like adenovirus and trachoma, and atopic keratoconjunctivitis. Most commonly confused one is the erythema multiforme. It can be differentiated from SJS-TN by SJS-TN is drug related, while erythema multiforme is infection related. In SJS, more than 2 mucosal membranes are involved. In erythema multiforme, mostly oral mucosa is involved. In SJS, fever, malaise, myalgia are present. In erythema multiforme, mostly constitutional symptoms are absent. In SJS, especially in TEN, extensive epidermal necrolysis is present, while in EM, only less than 10% of body surface area is involved. There is high mortality in severe cases, especially in TEN, while EM is a mild self-limiting disease. Recurrence is quite uncommon in SJS, while it is quite common in EM, especially when it is associated with HSV. So to summarize, acute stage manifests with conjunctivitis, conjunctival hemorrhage, pseudomembranous and pneumonitis, symblepharon, epithelial defect, and sometimes persistent epithelial defect. They are managed with preservative-free tear substitute, topical steroids, topical broad-spectrum antibiotics, amniotic membrane transplantation. Subacute phase presents with ectropion, trichiasis, dystichiasis, symblepharon, recurrent or persistent corneal epithelial defects, severe dry eye, and keratinization of posterior lid margin. These are managed with scleral contact lenses, fornix reconstruction, amniotic membrane transplantation, and oral mucous membrane grafting. Chronic phase manifests with meibomian gland dysfunction, disuse atrophy, trichiasis, eyelid malposition, punctal occlusion, keratinization of eyelid margins, severe dry eye, corneal opacification and ulceration, limbal stem cell deficiency, and total ocular surface keratinization. These are managed with limbal transplantation and cultivated oral mucosal epithelial transplantation if the surface is dry, and keratoprosthesis if the surface is totally keratinized. Thank you.